Hey everybody. This video is going to go over the PowerPoint in the week 7 module on body paragraphs. It's a review of steps 1 and 3 of the writing process. And I'm also going to cover the handout on body paragraphs and transitions. So we're learning about how to take our knowledge of writing a well-developed paragraph and writing a full essay instead. We have spent a good bit of time so far in this course working on standalone paragraphs. We have been learning in this module how to take that information to create a full essay. We've talked about the introductory paragraph and the thesis statement. Now we're going to review what we know about paragraphs in general and then how to apply that to creating a series of paragraphs within an essay, right? So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time reviewing the PowerPoint on steps 1 and 3 of writing because we have been covering this a good bit already throughout the course. But I want to highlight what you need to remember about strong paragraph development because I don't want you to sort of like forget everything that we have covered on writing a single, strong, well-developed paragraph. Just because we're now going to switch gears and start writing a full essay, that does not mean that we just forget everything that we've learned up until this point. Everything we've learned up until this point is the foundation of what we need to create a full essay of paragraphs. So I want to remind you of the most important things about a well-developed paragraph and then introduce one new element that we haven't discussed yet because this new element really only applies to essays and series of paragraphs, right? And that would be the transitions. But just a little review of steps 1 through 3 of the writing process. So remember, we talked in the beginning of the course about the 4 elements of a paragraph. We know that a paragraph contains a transition, a topic sentence, support sentences, and a point sentence. We covered in depth 2 through 4, topic sentence, support sentences, and point sentence. We have yet to talk about the transition, but we're going to today. So we have a brief understanding of the transitions because we've talked about them within the paragraph, but we're going to look at them in more depth today. But don't forget the topic sentence, the support sentences, and the point sentence or concluding sentence. You still need all of that, even though these paragraphs will now be in an essay, right? So we know the first step in writing is that you have to begin with a point. That point is commonly known as the topic sentence. Even though we are now writing an essay with a series of paragraphs, developing a thesis, each paragraph in the essay still needs a point. It still needs a topic sentence, right? We know that it needs to be laser focused and that it needs to let the reader know exactly what that paragraph is going to be about. You still want to avoid all of the common errors in topic sentence. You don't want to make an announcement about the topic. You don't want to say, this paragraph is going to be about blah, blah, blah. Or now I want to talk about blah, blah, blah. You still need to make sure that the topic sentence is not too broad, right? And you need to make sure that it's more than just a fact. You need to find that happy medium, kind of like what we just discussed with thesis statements, right? You don't want just a fact because that's not what a paragraph discusses. A paragraph is developing an idea, right? So you want to make sure that you're not too narrow, but you want to make sure you're not too broad. You got to get it just right and really focus the reader's attention on what that paragraph is actually about, but don't make an announcement in the topic sentence. So all of 3 of those errors that we discussed earlier in the course, they still apply to the body paragraphs of an essay, right? So you still have to have your topic sentence. Make sure that you don't commit one of those 3 common errors with topic sentences. Remember that your paragraph is kind of like an umbrella. The topic sentence is your umbrella, and your main ideas of the paragraph should fall under that umbrella, right? For instance, ATA is a great place to go to college. That's our topic sentence. Our supporting ideas are because it has flexible scheduling, because it has a reasonable tuition, and because of their career placement services. So all three of those main ideas fall under our umbrella of what makes ATA a great place to go to college. And we're going to give supporting details like examples and reasons or facts to help prove each of our three main ideas in that paragraph, right? That leads us to step 2 of the writing process. Those are our supporting sentences. This is where we're going to support the point and the main ideas in the paragraph with specific evidence. Remember, we want the supporting sentences to be specific. We need specific details. And we need adequate details. That means enough of them, right? So after you have your topic sentence and you make sure that all the ideas in the paragraph fall under that topic, directly under that topic, and you've used specific and adequate supporting details to back everything up, to explain everything, then you have that concluding sentence that sort of gives us that final thought on the paragraph, draws it to a close. Then you want to make sure you hit step 3, which is organizing and connecting the details. This is where you look back through all of your support sentences. Did I discuss the main ideas in a logical order? Have I connected my thoughts using transition words or other connecting words so that my reader understands how I'm getting from one idea to the next? How are they all connected? How are all my thoughts related? So that was coherence, remember? Using the transitions and the organization within the paragraph to create cohesion, right? So don't forget to do that in your body paragraphs of an essay. You still do that with every paragraph. So everything that we've worked on with standalone single paragraphs, you still apply the same exact rules or the same formula for body paragraphs in an essay. Now, just as we use transitions within a paragraph to connect all of our thoughts, we need to use transitions within the essay to connect our main points. This is where that first element of a paragraph comes into play, the one we haven't really touched on yet, transitions. Sometimes you'll hear that a transition for a paragraph will be the first sentence, and then that transition sentence is followed by the topic sentence. No. Yes, that would happen occasionally, but we want to follow the rule that the transition is included in the topic sentence. So those first 2 elements of a paragraph, transition, topic sentence, they actually go together. We just don't need a transition if the paragraph is a standalone paragraph, one single paragraph by itself. Then you don't need a transition because there's nothing coming before it. But now that we're going to be writing an essay, there will be ideas presented before each individual paragraph. So now we need that first element. We need that transition along with our topic sentence to guide our reader through the ideas of the essay. So there was a handout that I had you look at, and you'll actually see this again later, of the full essay of the Halloween review. This is a really great example of a student-written essay because there's nothing flashy or exceptional about it. It just contains every single element that's needed, and it just does its job, right? So if you look at the introductory paragraph, what's in red in that paragraph, the red font, is our thesis statement. So he drew us in, got our attention. For nearly a century, horror movies have been shocking and scaring audiences across the globe, from the Universal monster movies of the early 1940s to the current remakes and unoriginal horror films of today. So he draws us in a very general, broad way. Then he gets specific. There's no choice but to look back to find the greatest of them all. John Carpenter's Halloween is the only one that truly stands out. So just in 3 sentences, he took us from that very broad attention-getting device, and in 2 sentences later, we've already narrowed in on the topic of this essay, which is John Carpenter's Halloween. And then he gives us his focused point of view and his purpose in that thesis statement that's in red font, with the use of great acting, suspense, a chilling musical score, and one hell of an antagonist. Halloween is undoubtedly the greatest horror movie yet. That's a perfect thesis statement. I couldn't ask for anything more. It tells us what this focus is, that it's, John Carpenter's Halloween. We know what the author's point of view is, that it's the greatest horror movie ever. And we know what 4 areas the essay is going to talk about, right? The acting, the suspense, the musical score, and the antagonist. We have nothing to guess right now except how he's going to prove each of those 4 areas. So let's look at the first body paragraph. So the first body paragraph is the paragraph that comes after the introduction. The first body paragraph gives us a transitional topic sentence. It transition in that meaning we know where in time, in terms of the essay, the layout of the essay, we know where we're at and we know what the paragraph is going to be about. The first aspect of Halloween that makes it such a terrific film is the acting. So he's made it clear that we are on the first main point. He has reminded us what the purpose of the essay is, to prove that the movie is so good, and he has announced the focused topic of this paragraph, the acting. He gives us specific examples. He starts with Jamie Lee Curtis and gives us an example of why her performance was so good. And then he wants to talk about another actor as well, Donald Pleasence. So he decides he's already said a good bit about Jamie Lee Curtis, and he wants to say a good bit about Donald Pleasence as well. So he goes to a new paragraph. We are still within the first main point of his thesis, the acting, but he is using 2 body paragraphs to explain why the acting is so good. And even though we're still within the first main point, he still gives us a transitional topic sentence when he moves to the paragraph about Donald Pleasence. The best acting, however, goes to Donald Pleasence for his portrayal of Dr. Sam Loomis. We know that this is adding on to that previous paragraph, that we are still within his first main point of acting, and that this paragraph is going to focus on Donald Pleasence. And then he gives us specific examples of how Donald Pleasence's performance was so good. After that paragraph, the next body paragraph starts with, in addition to superb acting, reminding us where we just came from, another key factor to the greatness of Halloween, reminding us of his purpose, is the suspense, focusing our attention on what's going to happen in this paragraph. Then he gives us examples of why the suspense in the movie is so good. The next body paragraph. This scare by itself, meaning the one he just discussed in the previous paragraph, was pretty good, but what really tipped it over the edge was the stinger. So we know that this paragraph is going to be about the stinger, whatever that is. And he even then he tells us what the stinger is. A stinger, a term coined by John Carpenter, is a musical note timed perfectly to the appearance of the killer. Without the stinger, this scene would probably just be your average jump scare, blah, blah, blah. So he has explained what the stinger is and what it means when you add it to the movie, and then he moves to the next body paragraph. The presence of the stinger is no accident, as John Carpenter was very aware of how effective music can be. Now, he has reminded us that we just came from the paragraph on what the stinger is, explaining what it is. And now this paragraph is going to focus on how John Carpenter used it because he knew music was effective. And then he explains that Carpenter test screened the movie without the stinger, and it was okay. But then he added it, and then when he test screened it again, test screened it again, the audience was terrified. So he backs up that topic sentence. Then he moves to his last main point. Yet, even with the addition of the great musical score, reminding us where we just came from, that's our transition, no horror movie can ever be a good horror movie, reminding us of his purpose, without an outstanding antagonist, and Halloween has the best antagonist in Michael Myers. And then he gives us specific examples why Michael Myers is such a great antagonist. Then he gets to his concluding paragraph. With the aid of the aforementioned aspects, everything that he's just discussed, Halloween has stood the test of time and proved to be a great movie. The stellar cast, acting, hauntingly suspenseful scenes, the suspense, and music, and the man himself, Michael Myers, those are his 4 main points. He doesn't say them with the exact same words that he does in the thesis statement or even in the body of the essay, but he did just refer to them. He reminded us of those 4 main points here in the concluding paragraph. And the man himself, Michael Myers, come together in perfect unison to give us an outstanding movie. Several sequels, a remake, and a sequel to the remake all serve as added proof that there will never be another horror film quite as good as John Carpenter's Halloween. Boom. Again, there is nothing exceptionally fancy or complex about this essay. He just did his job. That's it. And he did it very clearly, very efficiently. What I want you to get from this essay, there's a lot to get from it. The essay as a whole, looking at every element, looking at the introductory paragraph and the thesis statement, great example. Looking at the concluding paragraph, great example of that too. But what I really want to focus on with this essay right now in this moment are those transitional topic sentences. Not only does each topic sentence tell us exactly what this new paragraph is going to be about, but every single topic sentence also contains a transition that reminds us of where we just came from as it leads us into the focus of this new paragraph. So the first aspect of Halloween that makes it a terrific film, so that the transition is there at the beginning of that sentence. The first aspect, we know we're at the beginning, that makes it such a terrific film is the acting. We know what this paragraph is going to be about. The best acting, however, goes to Donald Pleasance for his portrayal of Dr. Sam Loomis. So he reminded us where we just came from. He's already given us one example of the good acting, but now he wants to give us an even better example of the good acting. He reminded us where we came from. The best acting, however, that's his transition. However, it lets us know that there's more he's adding on, and this one is even better. Then when he goes to the third body paragraph, in addition to the superb acting, another key factor, that's his transition. Reminded us of where we just came from, lets us know he's going on to the next main idea. In addition to superb acting, another key factor of the greatness of Halloween is the suspense. So use this as a guide for how to start working on transitional topic sentences within an essay. Don't forget everything that we've learned about standalone paragraphs up until this point. You still need the topic sentence. And it needs to be laser focused. You still need the supporting sentences. You need specific and adequate details. You still need your concluding sentence. The only difference now is you need to add in a transition within your topic sentence to guide your reader from the previous paragraph as you're introducing the topic of this new paragraph. So basically, what should happen is this. If I were to take the essay and cut out each paragraph and laid them out, mixed them all up and laid them out on a table in front of me, I should be able to put it back in the correct order, no problem, because of the transitions. If we don't have those transitions, we don't know what order the paragraphs were discussed in. We don't know what order they go in. It could be any order because there's nothing telling us that this idea was discussed before this one, and this one came third, and this one came last, right? That's what the transitions do. It shows us the order of your main points. And if I were to cut the paragraphs out, I should be able to put them back in the correct order like that. So it takes some practice. And as you're drafting your essay, those transitions might not really be there yet. And that's fine. It's much more important to get the main structure of the paragraphs written on the page. You can go back and work on the transitions within the topic sentences. Don't feel like it has to be there first time around. You can, you may even have to tighten up the topic sentence itself, along with adding a transition. That's what revision is for. Nobody ever should expect the first draft to be perfect. Very rarely does that happen. Know that it's expected that you will have some things to work on after the draft is written. Know that it's okay to already know ahead of time what you're going to need to work on. As you're writing the draft of your essay, you might think to yourself, I really am struggling to come up with these transitions right now. Don't stop your flow though, and bang your head against the wall trying to figure out how to create the transition in that topic sentence. Just get the topic sentence down and keep going. Come back to it later, right? But when it's all said and done, these are the elements that you need in your essay. The introduction that grabs your reader's attention, leads them to your narrowed focus, and then gives them that thesis statement that is laser focused. You need body paragraphs that are well developed, that have good, focused, transitional topic sentences, strong supporting sentences that have specific and adequate details, and a concluding sentence to each paragraph. And then you need a concluding paragraph at the end of the essay that signals the essay's coming to a close, reminds us of everything that we've read, and then leaves us with a final thought. You're going to learn more about concluding paragraphs in the next lesson of this module. But the body paragraphs are like 80% of your essay. So you want a strong introduction and you want a strong conclusion, but you will be spending the most time working on the body paragraphs. Don't forget everything we've learned about paragraphs up until this point. The only difference now is adding in those transitions along the way. If you have any questions or concerns about this lesson, please let me know. Otherwise, you guys are free to move on to the next lesson in the module.